Guys, AI is completely transforming the $30 billion music industry. AI music it's just transforming everything. AI in general, transforming everything. And we've been covering how AI is displacing jobs. And again, the World Economic Forum, I keep repeating this, is anticipating 200 million jobs displaced over the next 5 years. Today, we're talking about music. We're going to be talking about how AI is impacting the music industry. We're going to talk about dollars and cents. We're going to look at specific numbers and research. I got my trusty notes here. And we're going to talk about some strategies on how to actually leverage these tools and these changes to make money online, to feed your family, some important concepts. And look, I'm not an expert in music, but the writing is on the wall. This is a huge deal. I'm going to give you some numbers here that might shock you. The first number is Deezer has reported about 18% of their uploads are AI generated. That's Deezer. Now, Spotify and Apple are keeping it close to the chest. We don't know exactly how many of their uploads are AI generated, but there's a lot. A couple years ago, an AI song called Heart on My Sleeve, which was a deepfake of Drake and The Weeknd, took over Spotify, went super viral. It was not Drake, it was not The Weeknd, it was an AI generated deepfake. 500,000 downloads occurred before it was pulled down for copyright infringement. Pretty insane numbers. And I don't know if you've heard that Heart on My Sleeve song. I don't know if you'll be able to find it now, but it was really good. I listened to it when it came out. It was really good. And that's not the only one. There's been a number of songs, but that to me was one of the biggest ones. That was a big inflection point. And I don't know if you played with any of these tools. If you're just a regular guy like me, I would encourage you, download Suno AI, Suno AI. No, it's not an affiliate link. No, I'm not making money off you. I just want you to see this and experience and taste it for yourself. Because guys, if you're not learning these tools, if you're not playing with these tools, you are going to be a dinosaur. You are not going to be hireable. You're not going to be employable. And you're not going to know what the hell's going on. Regardless, check out this app, Suno.ai. And what it is, it's a free app to use. You can pay for some of the advanced features, but it's free to use. And what you do is you just type in some text as far as like what you want the music to sound like. It will write, or what it is like, for example, you might say, write a song that is it's about my daughter's 10th birthday. She likes giraffes and soccer. It'll do an entire song. It'll give you a couple different samples. It sounds really, really good. My kids and I have a blast doing these. I even made one for my mom earlier this year, completely free, sent it to her, and she was shocked. She was just loving it. So if you're looking for a cool birthday gift or something to give to a loved one, to celebrate an anniversary or anything like that, go to Suno AI and make a song and send it to them. They'll get a big kick out of it, and you will be shocked at how good it sounds. And it takes you seconds. I'm not a very musical guy, but this stuff sounds really, really good. And if you're a composer or a musician, you need to be aware of this stuff. You need to be aware of this stuff. Okay. And before I get into some of the stats about the music industry, which might also shock you, I mean, music is big, it's very big, and you probably already know that. We're gonna talk about some of the numbers there. Another thing that I want to note is I come from a podcast and marketing background, and in my industry, voiceover artists, I know quite a few voiceover artists, about a half dozen to a dozen. That's how they make their money. They do voiceover. You don't need a voiceover actor anymore, guys. I'm sorry. I'll go to 11 Labs. I'll get the voiceover. I'm not going to hire someone and pay them $1,000 to do voiceover work. Your job is dead right now. It's gone. So you need to adjust. And again, at the end of this video, if you stay tuned, I'll give you some ideas on how you might either A, adjust and adapt to this change, or B, if you're like me, find some opportunities and some ways to make money off these changes. I've been talking a lot about develop a minimum viable product, make something that's very simple. You can use a tool like Replit, serve a very specific audience, and you can pump out apps very quickly. You can run trials on them, and then if it hits, then you can pour money into development, because the cost of software development, guys, has dropped from hundreds of thousands of dollars to hundreds of dollars. A ridiculous opportunity here with tools like Replit. So anyway, let's talk about the music industry. So right now, the total global market size is just under $30 billion. And it's anticipated to continue to grow at a 4 to 5% growth rate. Okay, we'll talk about where it's projected to be in 2033 in just a minute if you don't want to do the quick math there. But streaming breakdown. streaming, or let's look at the revenue breakdown. Streaming is the majority. It's about 70% of the music industry is streaming. Listening to a song on Spotify or on iTunes, for example. That's 20.4 billion. Physical sales, 4.8 billion. Man, I remember back in the day when I used to go to Sam Goody and buy CDs and even records. Yeah, you don't do that anymore. Anyway, that's 4.8 billion. Digital downloads are 800 million. Performance rights, 2.9 billion. So, performance rights, if you want to play a song at like a big event or something, you're basically licensing the song. And then synchronization is 600 million. So by far, the biggest part of this is streaming. And that, my friends, is where that's what AI is born to do, is to stream. So that's a big deal. So why is this such a big deal? Why is this happening now? Well, there's a lot of great AI tools out there. I mentioned Suno a minute ago. Amper Music is another big one, and it just makes it really easy to generate electric sounds using AI. And I think this is also interesting. I was listening to a podcast the other day with Scott Storch, who's a huge music producer. He's worked with everyone from Jay-Z to Snoop Dogg to Dr. Dre to all those guys. Terror Squad, and he was on the Patrick David podcast, and he was just saying that like all the music, his opinion was all the music is trash, and that's kind of how old folks like myself think about things. Everything that's new sucks. It sucks. But he brought up an interesting point that music historically has not been electric, but now everything sounds electric. Again, electric streaming. This is where AI can really take over. You can't replace a street musician, although they're not going to make a ton of money, but you can easily produce AI electronic songs and then flood the market. In addition to that, what they're doing, what these AI bots, these AI music creators are doing, they're flooding the market with songs, and then they're using bots to engage with the songs and push them to the top of the list. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a moment too. I know there's a lot of stuff I'm hinting at. I'm getting ahead of myself. At any rate, you can create music using the AI tools. It's easier than it's ever been. And even Spotify has an AI DJ, which can personalize listener experiences. And if you know how to game the algorithm, like I mentioned with bots, you can get your songs pushed to the top. The global AI music market right now is valued at about $4 billion. It's anticipated to reach $38 billion by 2033. So, we're talking about, again, if the music market continues to increase at the 4% rate, and you look at the math, the experts are predicting that like within the next 8 to 9 to 10 years, AI is going to be the majority of music income. So if you're a musician, I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know what to tell you. And by the way, one of the things that I love about music is it comes with soul. It has meaning. Someone put heart in soul. Like when I see someone play the guitar, I'm like, that is unbelievable. I've been listening to a lot of pianists playing Legend of Zelda music, and when I see someone play the piano, I'm like, it's just absurd how talented these guys and girls are to be able to play this music. And now I can do it. And I'm not a musician, but I can use AI to generate really good sounding music with like the touch of my hand. It's pretty nuts. So we talked about that. AI is just going to continue to take more and more of that market share. So what are some of the challenges? Let's talk about a few of the challenges and problems there that are going to impact, that may sound obvious. So the first one is the fraudulent streaming. Up to 70% of AI generated streams on Deezer are bot driven. And we kind of talked about that. I just want to highlight that again. There are a lot of ethical concerns, like I mentioned earlier, with Drake and somebody faking Drake's voice and making a song. That's copyright infringement, boys. You don't need a new law to pass to solve that problem. You just can't be doing that. That is copyright infringement. The prevalence is absurd. Deezer saying 18% of their downloads are AI generated. That's nuts. And Spotify and Apple won't tell us that. But not to get off topic here, but I recall when Elon took over X, he just purged a ton of bots, and I don't think that you can actually fix that problem, that whackable problem, because there are more bots on X than maybe ever before. Maybe I'll record a video on dead internet theory, but the reality is that there are bots everywhere. The social media is full of bots. It makes it almost unusable. Don't get me started on LinkedIn. Every single freaking DM I get from someone is some sort of automated bot. It's really annoying. I can't even use LinkedIn anymore. Every comment, every DM is some sort of AI-driven message. It's just not a good experience. Spotify users, oh, to get this is nuts. Spotify users have noted that the release radar playlists are dominated by AI tracks. And one user, get this, one user reported 75% of the tracks are AI generated. 70%, and that was in September of 2023. September 2023, and there's one band that just went super viral called the Velvet Sundown, which is a fully AI generated band. AI characters, AI art, AI music. The Velvet Sunrise, check them out. They went hugely viral. They've got like 500,000 followers on Spotify. It's AI. It's not a real band, but they're making making music, whatever you want to call it. Pretty nuts. Velvet Sundown, 500,000 listeners as of today. That's crazy. So, yeah, we got to talk about how this impacts musicians. And again, this has been a really common thread on the channel now because it's potentially one of my biggest fears. I'm not really afraid of nuclear annihilation by AI, although that's certainly something to be aware of. But I'm concerned with mass layoffs. I just posted a video yesterday how Microsoft is laid off 4% of their workforce. I'll put a link up to that there. I recorded another video last week about Amazon. Amazon has laid off 100,000 employees, and they now in warehouses have more robots working than humans. I mean, it's just happening all across the board, guys. It's all across the board. So AI is a big deal there. So what does this mean for musicians? AI music competes for streams. It's reducing the royalty pools, and the projection is a 27% reduction in income for musicians from streams. So your revenue stream from if you're a musician, if you're streaming music to Spotify, the expectation is that you can reduce that by 27% over the next couple of years. I think there's still going to be some big guys, some big dogs, but you know, if you're just a regular musician making music, you're looking at a big loss. By the way, like, I own a creative agency. We do a lot of creative work for companies, and we use programs like Envato, and we license music to play on platforms like YouTube and Spotify, intros, outros, creative work. Like but we can do all that with AI right now, and it's kind of crazy. Market saturation. Millions and millions of AI generated tracks are flooding platforms, which, by the way, makes it harder for you to stand out because it's all AI. Now you're not competing just against the humans who had to put in blood, sweat, and tears to learn how to make music. Now you're competing against average Joes like me who can just put together AI music, which is crazy. And then we talked about fraudulent streaming. You know, there's these bot farms that are just streaming music en masse. They're leaving reviews, they're liking musicians, promoting them, and they're fake. They're not real listeners. So you've got bots making music and bots listening to music to upvote to make money. What? This is a big problem as a whole when it comes to the internet, but that's crazy. And then licensing displacement, which I just mentioned here. Like, if you used to be a musician, you made music for like video games, for movies, for podcasters, for video, you know, your relevance has been substantially reduced because now the movie studio or the video studio doesn't need you. They can create their own using AI very, very quickly and easily. So it's a huge deal. And it's only going farther. It's only going faster. It's just kind of hard for me to wrap my head around these numbers and how quickly it's growing. It's just crazy. So what's the threat here? AI music currently holds about 0.5% of streams. Although again, do you think Apple is actually going to reveal how many of their songs are AI generated and pouring in streams? No, they're not going to report that, because if you're a musician, you're not going to want to be competing against that. You're not going to be favoring that platform. So that's A. And B, they don't know. And I've seen people talk about, well, you know, like, for example, if you're a student and you use ChatGPT to write a paper and you submit it, you know, and you put in a little bit of work, you can't just upload it into a program that will verify whether or not it's AI. That stuff is not accurate. It's not accurate. There is no tried and true way to actually test if something's AI generated. Now, sometimes you'll be able to tell, you know, like in images, you'll be able to tell if something has if someone has a six finger, or if the writing is too mechanical, you might be able to tell that it's AI. But there is not a software, there is not an AI software that can detect with certainty if something is AI or not. So at any rate, let's look at those numbers again. Right now, AI music currently holds 0.5% of streams, but it's projected, get this, to raise to 20% of streaming revenues over the next 2 years, by 2028. By 2028, the expectation is it's going to count for 20% of streaming revenue. That is a lot of market share, boys. That's a lot of market share. So that brings us to the question of how to adapt. How would I adapt if I was a musician? How would you adapt if you're a musician? So A is learn the tools, guys. Start adapting, using AI to be more effective. Pour your heart and soul in, but use AI to kind of get your basic beats down and try to experiment more quickly. Focus on your unique value. And so this is something that I haven't really recorded a lot on, but I would expect that as AI and robots become more prolific in our daily lives, people are going to hunger for real life events. They're going to hunger for real soulful music. They're going to hunger for not that electric sound, but the sound of a string on a guitar. You know what I'm saying? There's no doubt in my mind this will happen. So you can kind of like lean into, we don't do anything AI generated. That's a way that you could go. Okay, so anyway, focus on that. Diversify your revenue streams, prioritizing live performances, merchandise, subscriptions. I think the key here is you want to try to avoid leaning too hard into streaming, because that is where AI is going to take the largest market share. It's going to get into streaming more and more. And you know, just by the stat I showed the other day, there's predictions that have it as high as 20% of streaming revenue. You don't want to be competing against them. You can certainly be an advocate for fair compensation. You know, we saw this with SAG-AFTRA last year, which is essentially an actors guild, which said we don't want AI writing scripts for shows, TVs, movies. I don't think that's a winning battle, quite frankly, but that is something that you could fight for and just say, hey, you know, down with AI music. Although I feel like that is swimming against a tsunami rather than surfing it, which is another topic that I've covered at length. You know, AI is coming, technology is coming, so you can either grab a surfboard and surf and win, and not everyone will win, but you have the opportunity to win. Or you can try to swim against the tsunami, which you will drown if you try to do that. That said, being an advocate for fair compensation is not necessarily a bad way to go. And then upskill and collaborate. Learn, this is where I'm at. This is where I'm at across every industry. Music is not unique. Upskill, learn to use the tools, be more efficient. Don't be dishonest, have character. Don't just use bots to push ideas, but be on the forefront, be a leader in your industry. Okay, that's a good way to go. And then let me just, before we close down, talk about this as for the non-musicians. And if you're this far, you're probably a musician, or at the very least you're interested in it. For me, I'm interested in opportunities. So what can we take away from this whole video, all of this data, all this information? What we can take away from this is that AI is going to be very disruptive in the music industry. There's going to be mass disruption. There's going to be a lot of money that's changing hands. So what do we want to do? We want to find the problems and provide solutions. I'll give you an example. Let's say you can build out a solution that connects musicians to live venues. Okay, that could be a solution. But think with your head, use some ChatGPT, use Grok to do some deep research, use Replit to build out your minimum viable product, start making ideas, start playing with it, test it in the market. If it works, bingo, bango, bongo, lean in. If it doesn't work, that's cool. You shift to the next idea. But what we really want to do is experiment. And I'm going to keep talking about this in every video, guys, because this is the most important thing. What AI does is it reduces your risk. It reduces the time. It reduces the money that it costs to develop solutions. So think about what is a big problem that I can solve, and what's one button that my user could push to to have some resolve on that problem? And how can I leverage AI to make that solution better? That's where I'm thinking. So let's close this thing down. AI music is a growing force of a $31 billion music industry. It now comprises 0.5%, but that's estimated to increase to 20% of streaming revenue. Start embracing and leveraging AI as a tool to be better at what you do. Start looking for opportunities to leverage it more, and have a future outlook. Build your personal brand, okay? Build your personal brand, and I'm not going to go into personal brand building, but your presence is really important. And I'll leave you with this one thing. When it comes to building a personal brand, this is what you want to think about. If I can't serve everybody, but I can serve a few people, and if I was super clear about who I was serving, what would that look like? Who would I be? What is their problem? How can I serve them? And guys, if you're a millennial man like me, if you're trying to raise a family, if you're trying to stay relevant in a rapidly changing workspace, this is where we need to be, guys. We need to find those niche problems, develop niche MVP solutions, and that's where I'm at. Again, guys, I just got done with the move, so I haven't had as much time to experiment with some of these new tools. I do have some really cool softwares that I'm building personally in between putting up shelves in the new house. However, all that said, build. Surf, don't swim, guys. Build those MVPs, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, peace.